So this is lesson 2 on using the Simuquick tab of the Rig-GNS add-on. In lesson 1, we created simulation bones for the figures here as well as for the sleeves and cape. So in this lesson, we will continue by also creating simulation bones for the back-loin. We will also explore some of the functions found on the Simuquick tab. Alright, now to start creating simulation bones on this back-loin, let's first pause the animation, then select the rig. Make sure to remove the animation from the baked action panel, and remember to always return to frame 1 before resetting the rig. If not, clicking the reset button may not fully reset the simulation bones. So going back to frame 1 and resetting again ensures the rig is fully reset. Now let's select this back-loin and then go to local view. Remember, we need to separate the part that will be simulated from the part that needs to remain rigid. Now to do this, just go to edit mode and now find a suitable spot on the mesh where you will make the separation. I'm going to use these edges as they appear to be connected all the way across. So double click to loop select and then press V to split the mesh into 2 parts. Now click on the newly separated region, then press L to select the loose parts. Then press P and choose separate by selection. Now we have the part that will be simulated separated from the rest of the mesh. Now let's rename this part by pressing F2 and then call it back-loin tail. Okay. Now to make the linear selection, we would go to edit mode. One thing I immediately noticed is that most of the faces on this mesh are not quads, which means we can't simply double click to loop select the edges from top to bottom. The tries and end guns will prevent that from happening. So what we can do is select a single vertex at the top center, then hold down Ctrl, and then select another vertex at the bottom. This will automatically create a linear selection of the shortest path between the 2 vertices. So now that we've made our selection, I'll return to global view and click the create Simu bones button. The bone count option is disabled, and this is because matching vertex groups were found on the object, which you can see in the vertex group tab here. Let me cancel this menu and show you the matching groups. So you'll notice we have these vertex groups: center back 2, center back 3, and center back 4. This means we won't need to manually specify the bone count. Now let's press Ctrl 1 for the orthographic back view. Remember, creating simulation in orthographic view helps orient the normals of the Simu mesh. Now let's go ahead and click create bones, change the parent bone to hip, and then click OK. Now we have the bones created. Pressing play shows the simulation slightly moving the back-loin. Let's return to the baked action panel and then reassign the dancing animation to the rig. So going back to frame 1 and pressing play, we shall now see a more convincing simulation compared to what we had before. I'll just disable the overlays up here to better see the character. There's one option we haven't really looked at when creating the Simu bones. Let me expand this panel. If you recall, when we click the create Simu bones button, one of the options that appeared in the pop-up menu is the collision mesh option, which we haven't really utilized yet. Now to demonstrate how the collision mesh option works, we will need an animation where the figure's leg interacts with the back-loin. So let's go back to the Animixer tab, click import motion and select Mixamo. Navigate to where you have such animation. In my case, I'll select this fast run animation, then click import. And now click the bind button. Playing the animation, you'll see the simulation appears to be working fine. However, when I scroll through the frames, moving 1 frame at a time with the arrow button, you will notice the figure thigh poking through the back-loin on some of the frames. And this is where the collision mesh option can help prevent this kind of issues. Before we look at the collision mesh option, it is important to understand the Simu mesh section down here and its associated buttons here. But let's quickly bake the animation we just imported as it hasn't been baked yet. So let's go back to the Animixer tab, then click the bake button and then click OK. Now the animation is baked. So back to the Simu mesh section. Clicking on this name field displays a drop-down list of all Simu mesh currently in the scene, which correspond to the simulated object. For instance, when I select the back-loin, you can see an asterisk back-loin in the Simu mesh name field. And similarly, when I select cape, you'll see we have asterisk cape here. You should understand that the cape object here is not the physics object itself, and the Simu mesh here represents the actual physics object, while the cape is merely referencing its physics properties. This selected cape in the viewport is named CAPE, while the corresponding Simu mesh is labeled here asterisk CAPE. And similarly, when we select the left sleeve, the object is named left sleeve, and its Simu mesh is labeled asterisk left sleeve. The Simu mesh can be found here in the outliner in a collection named Simu collection. So let's just collapse that and return to the viewport. Clicking on one of the simulated objects automatically brings up its Simu mesh in this field. Next to the name field of this Simu mesh are these three buttons for different functions that affect the Simu mesh. The first button is the isolate button. Enabling this button isolates the Simu mesh along with the figure's collision object. This helps provide a clearer view and a better understanding of the physics interaction between the Simu mesh and the figure. We can select just the strand and examine it closely. And to exit isolation mode, you simply just click the button again to disable it. Let's now select the back-loin and then click the isolate button to view its Simu mesh. Now playing the animation, we should see it swing like a tail between the leg. Since this back-loin has a large surface area, the poking issue occurs because when the character's leg extends backwards, the thigh does not properly collide with the Simu mesh because it's not wide enough. So this emphasizes why using a collision mesh is crucial when creating Simu bones for objects with large surfaces. Now I'll exit the isolation mode. Next to the isolate object button is the edit Simu mesh button. As the name suggests, this button allows you to edit the Simu mesh. Clicking it put the Simu mesh into edit mode, where you can select and move vertices to adjust the appearance of the simulated object. You can see how moving some vertices affect the simulation bones. This option is useful for refining the Simu mesh if you're not achieving the desired result. And now to exit this mode, simply click the button again. The last option here is the collide button. This button toggles collision for the Simu mesh on and off. Now to show you this, let's switch to side view and then play the animation. If you look closely, you'll notice the character's leg interacting with the back-loin, causing it to bounce upward. Now when the collide button is disabled, the legs will pass through the back-loin without any interaction. And re-enabling the button, you can see, restores the collision, allowing the leg to interact with the back-loin. Let me show you the collide button on this hair, as that will be more noticeable. So let's select the hair and then disable the collide button and play the animation. You should now see that the hair is sinking into the figure's back, and when we re-enable the collide button, you can see the hair bounces off the back of the figure upon contact. Now below the Simu mesh, we have the strength option, which I will explain shortly. For now, let's look at using the collision mesh option to address the poking issue with the back-loin. So let's start by moving the cursor back to the first frame, selecting the rig, removing the current animation, and then resetting the rig. Now press Ctrl 1 to switch to orthographic back view and then select the back-loin. Now we are going to remove the existing Simu bones on the back-loin. And to do that, we'll simply click this clear bones button. And you can see it immediately removes all Simu bones. To create the Simu bones again, with this back-loin selected, switch to edit mode and then go to local view to make the linear selection. Now return to global view, click create bones, and now enable the collision mesh option in this menu and then click OK. So we have the bones created. Now let's go back to the baked action panel and reassign the fast run animation. Now when we play the animation, we shall see that the thigh no longer pokes through the back-loin. Let's scroll through frame by frame to see it more clearly. So enabling the collision mesh option resolves this issue with poking through. Now let's view the collision mesh, which is the same as the Simu mesh. So select the back-loin and then click the isolate physics button. You can see we now have a larger Simu mesh, which is the same as the collision mesh, ensuring proper collision with the figure. Okay, let's stop the animation and return to frame 1. Now we can exit the isolate physics mode. I'll then select the rig, remove the animation and reset the rig. One thing I should point out is that it's good practice to check if the Simu mesh is penetrating the figure's collision object, especially after using the collision mesh option. Now to do this, let's select the back-loin and then click the edit Simu mesh button. Here you can see that the edges of the Simu mesh are slightly penetrating the region around the figure's leg. Penetration like this can sometimes cause the object to flicker. We can fix this by selecting these bottom edges that are penetrating the leg and then move them out. Now let's exit edit Simu mesh mode, reassign the animation by selecting the rig and going to the break action panel, then assign fast run animation. Now when I play the animation, we should see the closed simulation in action. So that concludes this lesson. In the next lesson, we will discuss this strength value and also add some wind force field to interact with the simulated objects. So that is that. I hope you found the video helpful. If so, please give it a like so that the video reaches others who might be interested. And if you would like to see more videos on using dust figures in Blender, particularly for rigging and animating dust figures, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your time. I'll see you in the next one.